The phone hasn't rung in 11 days. I know because I've been counting. Not on purpose, not at first. But when you live alone at 73, silence has a way of becoming measurable. It settles into the walls. It fills the spaces between your breaths. And after a while, you start to notice the exact shape of it. How long since the last voice, the last knock at the door, the last time someone said your name out loud. 11 days. My name is Laura. And for the first time in my life, I understand what it means to be forgotten. I'm sitting in the kitchen right now, the same kitchen where I once fed 4 children breakfast before school, where my husband Harold would pour his coffee and tell me about his plans for the day, where the radio was always playing something, where life happened in all its beautiful, exhausting noise. Now there's just the hum of the refrigerator, the tick of the clock above the stove, and me. Just me. Before I go any further, I want to say something to you. Wherever you are right now, whatever quiet room you might be sitting in, whatever chapter of life you're walking through, thank you for being here. I mean that. These stories, they're not just words. They're pieces of real life, real hearts, real people who have lived and lost and hoped and survived. And when you take a few minutes to listen, you become part of something bigger. A community. A place where we don't have to pretend everything is fine. So if you feel moved, leave a comment and tell me where you're listening from today. I'd love to know. And if this story touches something in you, consider subscribing to this channel. Not for numbers or algorithms, but because every time someone joins, it reminds me that we're not as alone as we sometimes feel. Now, let me tell you how I got here, and how everything changed because of a dog named Lucy. I was never supposed to grow old alone. That wasn't the plan. When Harold and I got married in 1974, we had dreams so big they barely fit in our tiny apartment. He was a carpenter, strong hands, quiet voice, the kind of man who said more with his eyes than most people say in a lifetime. I was a school teacher, 2nd grade. I loved those children like they were my own, even before I had any of my own. We built a life together, Harold and I, brick by brick, year by year. First came our daughter, Margaret, then the twins, David and Daniel, and finally, our surprise, our late blessing, our little Rose. 4 children, 4 miracles, 4 reasons to wake up every morning and believe that the world was fundamentally good. Our house was never quiet. Someone was always crying or laughing or slamming a door. The washing machine ran constantly. The dinner table was crowded, elbows bumping, voices overlapping. Harold used to say that our home was like a train station, always someone coming or going, always noise, always motion. I complained about it sometimes. God forgive me, I did. I would stand at the sink, exhausted, dishes piled high, and I would think, when will I ever have a moment of peace? Be careful what you wish for. That's what they say, isn't it? I didn't know then that those chaotic, exhausting, beautiful years would become the most precious memories of my life. I didn't know that one day I would sit in this same kitchen, alone, and I would give anything, to hear the sound of children fighting over the last piece of pie. The years passed. They always do. The children grew up, moved out, started lives of their own. Margaret went to California. The twins settled in different cities, hours away. Rose, my youngest, she stayed closest, just 40 minutes by car. She promised she would visit often, and she did, for a while. Harold and I adjusted. We learned to be just 2 again, after so many years of being 6. It was strange at first, the quiet, but we found our rhythm. Morning coffee on the porch, evening walks around the neighborhood, Sunday dinners when the children could make it home. We were happy, truly happy. Not the loud, chaotic happiness of young parenthood, but something softer, gentler. A happiness that came from knowing someone completely and being known in return. 47 years we had together. 47 years of ordinary days and extraordinary love. And then, 3 years ago, Harold's heart gave out. He was sitting in his chair by the window when it happened, reading the newspaper the way he did every afternoon. I was in the kitchen, starting dinner, chicken soup, his favorite. I heard a sound, not a cry, not a gasp, just a soft exhale, like a sigh, like he was finally relaxing after a long day. When I walked into the living room, he was gone, just like that. No warning, no goodbye. One moment he was here, and the next he wasn't. The doctors said it was quick. They said he didn't suffer. They said things like massive cardiac event and nothing could have been done. They meant it as comfort, I think. But there's no comfort in losing the person who has been your whole world for nearly 5 decades. The funeral was beautiful. All 4 children came home. The house was full again, just for a few days. Full of flowers and casseroles and people saying how sorry they were. Full of memories and tears and laughter at stories about Harold, his terrible jokes, his stubborn streak, the way he could fix anything with his hands. For those few days, I wasn't alone. But grief doesn't keep a crowd. People go back to their lives. They have jobs and children and responsibilities. They mean to stay in touch, mean to call, mean to visit. But the days turn into weeks, and the weeks turn into months. And slowly, without anyone quite noticing, the calls become less frequent. The visits become rare. The silence grows. My children love me. I believe that. But they're busy. Margaret has her career in San Francisco. The twins have their own families now, their own struggles. And Rose got a promotion last year. She's traveling more, working longer hours. She says she'll visit soon. She always says that. I don't blame them. I really don't. They're living their lives the way children are supposed to, the way Harold and I raised them to. But that doesn't make the silence any easier to bear. After Harold died, I kept expecting things to go back to normal. That sounds foolish now, I know. But grief does strange things to your mind. For weeks, I would set 2 places at the dinner table out of habit. I would hear a noise and think, oh, Harold's home. I would save funny stories to tell him at the end of the day, forgetting, just for a moment, that he wasn't there to hear them. Eventually, the forgetting stopped. Reality settled in like fog, slow and cold, and impossible to ignore. The house that had once been so full of life became a museum of memories. Harold's chair by the window, still positioned at the same angle. His tools in the garage, exactly where he left them. His reading glasses on the nightstand. His robe on the back of the bathroom door. I couldn't bring myself to move any of it. Not at first. It felt like erasing him, like admitting that he was really gone. But living among his things, surrounded by everything he had touched and used and loved, it was its own kind of torture. Some days, I would walk through the house and feel him everywhere. Other days, the absence was so sharp it took my breath away. I developed routines. That's what you do when you're alone. Routines become your scaffolding, the structure that holds you upright when everything inside you wants to collapse. I wake up at 6 every morning, even though there's no reason to. Old habits. I make coffee, just 1 cup now, not 2. I eat breakfast at the kitchen table while the morning light comes through the window. Toast and jam usually. Sometimes an egg. Then I clean. Not because the house is dirty, but because it gives me something to do with my hands. I dust the shelves that don't need dusting. I sweep the floors that don't need sweeping. I wipe the counters that I wiped yesterday and the day before. Afternoons are the hardest. The hours stretch endlessly. I watch television sometimes, but nothing holds my attention. I read, but the words blur together. I sit by the window and watch the neighbors come and go, young families with strollers, children on bicycles, couples walking hand in hand. Life happening everywhere except inside these walls. Evenings, I cook dinner, just for myself, but I still cook. Soup mostly. Sandwiches. Simple things that don't require much effort. I eat at the table, alone, listening to the clock tick. Then bed, then sleep, then wake up and do it all again. Day after day after day. Do you know what the loneliest sound in the world is? It's not silence. It's almost silence. It's the creak of a floorboard when no one else is walking. It's the settling of an old house that used to be full of voices. It's the echo of your own footsteps in empty rooms. That's what my life became. A series of almost silences stretching out ahead of me with no end in sight. I started talking to myself. Not in a crazy way. At least, I don't think so. Just little things. Narrating my day out loud because the sound of a voice, even my own, was better than nothing. Time for breakfast, Laura. Don't forget to water the plants. Oh, look, the mailman's here. But even that started to feel hollow after a while. Because talking to yourself isn't really talking. It's just making noise into the void. I began to wonder if anyone would notice, if I simply stopped. Stopped cleaning? Stopped cooking? Stopped getting out of bed? Would the phone ring then? Would someone come to check? I didn't want to die. I need you to understand that. I wasn't thinking of ending things. But I had stopped actively living too. I was existing, surviving, waiting for something, though I couldn't have told you what. That's the thing about being forgotten. It happens so gradually that you don't even realize it until one day you look up and you can't remember the last time someone called you by your name. It was Rose who suggested it. She called one evening, the first call in almost 2 weeks, and after the usual pleasantries, she said something that caught me off guard. "Mom, have you ever thought about getting a dog?" A dog. I almost laughed. I was 73 years old, living alone, barely able to motivate myself to cook dinner most nights. What would I do with a dog? "I'm serious," Rose said. "There's a shelter near you. They have older dogs, calmer ones. It might be nice to have some company." Company. The word lodged in my chest like a splinter. Is that what my daughter thought I needed? A substitute for human connection? A pet to fill the silence because my own children couldn't be bothered? I thanked her for the suggestion and changed the subject. After we hung up, I dismissed the idea entirely. But it stayed with me. Over the following days, as I moved through my empty routines, the word kept coming back. Company. It wasn't wrong, was it? I was lonely. Desperately, achingly lonely. And pride was a cold comfort in a silent house. A week later, I drove to the shelter. I don't know what I was expecting. Noise, I suppose, chaos, barking dogs jumping at their cages, desperate for attention. And there was some of that. But what struck me most was the sadness. Behind each set of eyes, there was a story, a loss, a broken bond. These animals had been left behind too. I walked slowly down the rows of kennels, looking but not really seeing. The shelter worker was kind, patient, pointing out dogs she thought might be a good fit. Young ones, energetic ones, small ones that would be easy to manage. And then I saw her. She was in a corner kennel at the far end of the row. A golden retriever, her coat the color of autumn leaves, lying quietly with her head on her paws. She wasn't barking like the others. She wasn't pressing against the gate or wagging her tail hopefully at every passerby. She was just waiting. The way I had been waiting. "That's Lucy," the worker said when she noticed me staring. "She's about 7 years old. Her owner passed away a few months ago. Family couldn't keep her." I felt something tighten in my chest. "She's very gentle," the worker continued. "Calm. But honestly, she's been here a while. Older dogs are harder to place. People want puppies." I knelt down in front of the kennel. Lucy lifted her head slowly, and for a moment, our eyes met. Hers were the color of warm honey, deep and patient, and full of something I recognized. Grief. She was grieving, too. "Can I meet her?" I heard myself ask. They took us to a small room, just the two of us. Lucy walked in slowly, her tail low, uncertain. She sniffed my hand when I offered it, then looked up at me with those honey eyes. I sat down on the floor. Not easy at my age, but I did it, and I waited. I didn't push. I didn't try to force a connection. I just sat there, quiet, letting her decide. After what felt like a long time, Lucy walked over and lay down beside me. She rested her head on my knee, let out a soft sigh, and closed her eyes. In that moment, something cracked open inside me. A door I had kept sealed shut since Harold died. I felt tears streaming down my face, and I didn't try to stop them. I filled out the paperwork that afternoon, and Lucy came home with me. The first weeks were awkward. There's no other word for it. I hadn't had a dog since the children were small, and that was decades ago. I had forgotten how much work it was. The feeding, the walking, the constant need for attention. Lucy wasn't demanding, quite the opposite, but her presence in the house required adjustments I wasn't prepared for. She was skittish at first. She would startle at sudden noises, flinch if I moved too quickly. The shelter had told me she might need time to adjust, and they were right. She had lost her person, after all. Her whole world had changed, just like mine. We circled each other those first days, like two strangers who had been thrown together by circumstance. Polite, careful, unsure. But slowly, something began to shift. It started with the mornings. Lucy would wake with the sunrise and come to my bedroom door, waiting patiently until I got up. Not scratching, not whining, just waiting. And somehow, knowing she was there, knowing something living was depending on me to start the day, made it easier to get out of bed. I started taking her for walks. Short ones at first, just around the block. My knees aren't what they used to be, and I tired easily. But Lucy never pulled or rushed. She walked beside me at exactly my pace, stopping when I needed to rest, continuing when I was ready. Those walks became our ritual. Every morning after breakfast, rain or shine. The neighbors started to recognize us, the old woman and the golden dog, making their slow way down the sidewalk. Some of them even stopped to say hello, to pet Lucy, to exchange a few words. I talked to more people in those first few weeks with Lucy than I had in the entire year before. At home, Lucy followed me from room to room, not in a clingy way, but in a companionable one. She would lie at my feet while I read, sit beside me while I watched television, curl up near the kitchen doorway while I cooked. I started cooking more. Real meals, not just toast and canned soup. Because now there was someone to share them with, even if she only got the scraps. I talked to her constantly, told her about my day, about my memories, about Harold and the children. She would tilt her head and listen with those patient honey eyes, and even though she couldn't understand the words, she seemed to understand the feeling behind them. "You're a good listener, Lucy," I would say, and she would wag her tail softly, as if to say, "I try." The silence of the house began to change. It wasn't absence anymore. It was presence. The soft click of her nails on the hardwood, the gentle rhythm of her breathing, the warmth of her body pressed against my side on the couch. The house still held memories, still held grief. But now it held something else, too. Life. I didn't notice the changes at first. They happened so gradually, so quietly, that it wasn't until months had passed that I looked back and realized how different I had become. The heaviness that had settled in my chest after Harold died, it didn't disappear, but it lightened. It made room for other things, for small pleasures, for moments of genuine peace, for hope. I started taking better care of myself, not because I wanted to, exactly, but because Lucy needed me to. I ate regular meals because I had to be strong enough to walk her. I went to bed at reasonable hours because she had her own schedule. I got dressed every morning, did my hair, put on a little lipstick, because we were going out, she and I wanted to look presentable. It's strange how caring for another creature can teach you to care for yourself. I made friends, real friends, not just acquaintances. There was Helen from the dog park, a widow like me, who had a little terrier named Biscuit. We started walking together some mornings, talking about everything and nothing. There was Mr. Patterson from 2 streets over, who always had treats in his pocket for Lucy and stories about his own dogs over the years. My world, which had shrunk down to the size of my empty house, began to expand again. I even started calling the children more. Not to guilt them, not to make them feel bad about not visiting, but because I had things to tell them now. Stories about Lucy, about the walks, about the people I was meeting. I had a life again, small as it was, and I wanted to share it. Rose noticed the change. "You sound different, Mom," she said one evening. "Happier." I thought about that word. Happier. Was I? "I have a reason to get up in the morning," I told her. "It makes more difference than you'd think." Lucy was that reason. Not the only one, but the foundation. She needed me, and in needing me, she gave me back myself. There's something powerful about being necessary. When you reach a certain age, the world starts to tell you, in 1,000 small ways, that you're not needed anymore. Your children are grown, your career is over, your spouse is gone. You become invisible, irrelevant, a relic of a time that has passed. But Lucy didn't see me that way. To her, I was everything, her whole world, the person who fed her, walked her, loved her, the person she waited for by the door, greeted with joy every single time. In her eyes, I mattered, and I had forgotten how much I needed to matter. I should have known it couldn't last. It was a Tuesday morning, about 8 months after Lucy came to live with me. We were on our usual walk, moving slowly down the sidewalk, when I noticed something wrong. Lucy was limping. It was subtle at first, just a slight hesitation in her gait, but as we continued, it became more pronounced. She was favoring her right front leg, taking shorter steps, stopping more frequently to rest. My heart seized. I got her home as quickly as I could and called the vet. They could see us that afternoon. The hours in between were agony. I sat on the floor with Lucy, stroking her fur, trying to keep my panic from showing. "It's okay, sweet girl," I whispered, though I wasn't sure I believed it. "It's going to be okay." The vet was a kind woman, gentle with Lucy, patient with me. She did x-rays, ran tests, poked and prodded while Lucy bore it all with her usual quiet dignity. Then she sat me down to give me the results. There was a mass, in Lucy's leg, near the shoulder. It could be benign. It could be something worse. They would need to do a biopsy to know for certain. I don't remember driving home. I don't remember much of that evening at all. I just remember sitting on the couch with Lucy beside me, my hand buried in her golden fur, crying like I hadn't cried since Harold's funeral. I had let myself love her. I had let myself need her. And now I might lose her too. The days that followed were a blur of appointments and waiting and fear. The biopsy came back, and the news was both better and worse than I had expected. It wasn't cancer, thank God, but it was a growth that would need to be monitored, and Lucy's arthritis, common in older dogs, the vet said, was more advanced than they had initially thought. She wasn't dying, but she was slowing down. Her golden years, like mine, were marked by the inevitable limitations of age. I made changes. I bought orthopedic beds for every room so she would always have somewhere soft to rest. I shortened our walks, found routes without hills. I researched supplements, adjusted her diet, did everything I could to keep her comfortable. But the fear never quite went away. It lived in me now, a low hum beneath everything else. A reminder that love always carries risk, that every gift can be taken away. I had a choice to make. I could pull back, protect myself, start preparing for another loss. Or I could lean in, love fully, appreciate every moment I had left with this beautiful, gentle creature who had saved me. I chose to lean in. Lucy turned 9 this year. In dog years, that makes her a senior citizen, like me. We've settled into a rhythm, she and I. Our walks are shorter now, slower. Some days we don't make it much past the end of the block before she's ready to turn around. But we still go every morning because the ritual matters more than the distance. I've learned to treasure the small moments now. The way she stretches in the morning sunlight that falls across the living room floor, the soft sounds she makes while dreaming, the way her ears perk up when she hears my voice from another room. These tiny things, once invisible to me, have become the texture of my days. The children visit more than they used to, not because I asked, but because I think they can see that I'm okay now. That visiting isn't a duty or a burden, but a pleasure. We sit on the porch together, drink iced tea, watch Lucy nap in the sun. We talk about the past, about the future, about nothing in particular. Last month, Rose brought her daughter Sophie to meet Lucy for the first time. Sophie is 4 years old, all curls and giggles and endless energy. I worried that Lucy might be overwhelmed, but instead she was patient and gentle, letting Sophie hug her and pet her and whisper secrets in her floppy ears. Watching them together, my granddaughter and my dog, I felt something I hadn't felt in a very long time. Wholeness. Not happiness exactly, though there was that too. Something deeper. A sense that my life, for all its losses and disappointments and lonely years, had meaning. That the threads all connected somehow. That love, once given, doesn't disappear, it just changes form. Harold is still with me. In the way I make coffee every morning, in the songs I hum while I cook, in the way I still sleep on my side of the bed. The children, scattered as they are, carry pieces of him and pieces of me out into the world. And Lucy is the bridge between the life I had and the life I have now. She won't be with me forever. I know that. The arthritis is getting worse, and she sleeps more than she used to. There will come a day, maybe soon, maybe not, when I'll have to say goodbye. But I've made peace with that. Not because it won't hurt, it will. It will hurt terribly. But because I've learned something in these past 2 years with her. Grief is not the enemy. Grief is the price of love, and love is worth every penny. I'm sitting in the kitchen again, the same kitchen where this story began, the same kitchen where I once counted the silent days, where I measured my loneliness in unanswered phone calls and empty chairs. It's different now. Lucy is lying at my feet, her golden head resting on my slippers. The radio is playing softly, something old, something from the years when Harold was alive. The afternoon light comes through the window and falls across the table, warm and golden, like her fur. I've been thinking about what I want to say to you, about how to end this story, and I realize that there's no ending, not really. Life doesn't tie itself up in neat bows. It just keeps going, moment by moment, until it doesn't. But if I could leave you with anything, it would be this. You are not forgotten. I know it feels that way sometimes. I know the silence can be deafening, the loneliness can be crushing, the days can stretch out like an endless gray road with no destination in sight. I know what it's like to wonder if anyone would notice if you simply stopped. But you are not invisible. You are not irrelevant. You are not past your time. You are here. You are alive. And that means you still have the capacity to love and be loved, whether it's by a family member, a friend, a neighbor, or a dog who looks at you like you're the whole world. Don't close yourself off. Don't let pride or fear or grief convince you that you're better off alone. Reach out. Open up. Let something in. I was 73 years old when Lucy came into my life. I had convinced myself that my story was over, that all that was left was the slow fade to black. But I was wrong. There was still a whole chapter left to be written. A chapter of healing, of connection, of purpose. You have chapters left too. I promise you do. Lucy is awake now, looking up at me with those honey eyes. Her tail is wagging slowly, thumping against the floor. "What is it, sweet girl?" I ask her. She stands, stretches, slowly, carefully, her old joints protesting, and walks to the door. It's almost time for our afternoon walk. Not a long one, just a few minutes in the fresh air. Just enough to feel the sun on our faces and remind ourselves that we're still here. I push myself up from the chair, knees creaking, and find her leash. "Let's go, Lucy." She wags her tail harder, that simple joy, that pure delight in the small pleasures of life. We step outside together, the old woman and the golden dog, into the late afternoon light. The world is quiet, peaceful, and for the first time in years, the silence doesn't feel like emptiness, it feels like grace. If this story touched your heart, if it made you think of someone you love or someone you've lost, I hope you'll take a moment to leave a comment below. Tell me about your own Lucy, your own companion, your own source of comfort in the quiet times. I would love to hear your story. And if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to this channel. Every person who joins this community reminds me that we're not alone, that somewhere out there, someone else is listening, someone else understands, someone else is walking their own path through the silence toward the light. Thank you for being here with me today. Until next time, take care of yourselves and give your loved ones, two-legged or four, an extra hug. They are the greatest gift we have.